when we examine Wilfred Owen's poem Dulce et decorum est, we can say that the purpose of the poem is that it's protesting the horrors of war, but we can be more specific and look at precise statements such as, one purpose he has is to provide a human perspective to war. So because of censorship and propaganda, the civilians at home, on the home front, were given a very sanitised view of war, and so Owen's poem reveals the human face of war, what it actually looks like. He uses that vivid imagery and he presents a very confronting account to challenge those notions. And he is challenging the notion that war is honourable and, it is a noble pursuit. And that's driven by governments, obviously, as a means of justifying their involvement in war. Another purpose that he has is to awaken the audience to the propaganda used by the government. And, it does challenge the interests of governments. What is it that they're aiming to achieve by going to war? It's very obvious that war is going to cause a lot of casualties. So is it about patriotism, or are the governments, is their desire to recruit individuals, citizens, to be used as cannon fodder? Owen is saying that war is a futile experience. This war had been raging for 4 years and it didn't look like it was going to end. And so really the poem is exploring and expressing this idea of the futility of war. It's like a game of chess, I suppose, that people are playing in the comfort of their own countries, and Owen's saying, well, this is what it's actually like on the front. So what that does do is it exposes all these binaries in the narrative of war. And so this poem really exposes this notion of fiction and reality, and he's saying that the government is presenting a fictional account and he's presenting the reality, what it's like on the ground. And then that too exposes the notion of truth. So are the government, is it a lie? Is their narrative a lie? And where does the truth lie? And that's the role of the audience, really. The reader has to come to that conclusion themselves. So it is, for the time, because of the level of censorship, this poem, and there were a number of war poets, were trying to expose the truth from a disempowered perspective. It's funny, they had rifles and bullets and grenades, yet they weren't able to express their opinions or be heard because of the power of the larger machinery of war and politics. So notions of power are explored in the poem, and what Owen is doing is challenging that grand narrative of war, that it is a noble and it's an honourable cause, and that it's a necessary situation, it's a necessary activity to rid the world of evil. And that's the narrative, that's what's within the narrative, isn't it? That's a war of good and evil. And we know we have accounts of soldiers on the war front stopping on Christmas Day and playing cricket in no man's land, which is not relevant to the poem, but it just shows that the desires of the soldiers on both sides of the war were the same, essentially. Okay, and so the poem is presenting a marginalised perspective. It's from the powerless, and this poem gives a voice to those who aren't allowed to enact or be involved in the discourse and the narrative. When we apply it to the human experience, we can say that this poem reflects a universal experience of war, and it is an individual representation, but that reflects the collective experience. So despite which side you're on, the sentiment of the soldiers is exactly the same. In a World War I context, it's very clear that this relates to World War I, but really it does reflect the experiences of many wars that have been fought over time. So the poem does transcend time, and the vivid account that that Owen presents really captures that notion of the horror of war and death and destruction is a common ingredient in all those war experiences. Finally, the intertextual reference to Horace's Latin phrase, which is the title of the poem, it is very ironic. He's saying how sweet it is, but the reality is completely opposite to that. And there is a level of sarcasm in the final line and in the title, saying that how could governments say that it's a noble and an honourable duty when the reality is so extremely different.